No, 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 no. The door just opened by itself. No, 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 no.
Which one?
That door just opened by itself. That door just opened by itself.
I've got a knife in here. I've got a knife. I've got a knife.
Who's out here venturing into the darkness of the wilderness, alone and vulnerable? The woods can be an eerie place, especially at night. But what happens when you stumble upon something that makes your blood run cold? Tonight, we're exploring the 9 most disturbing camping encounters ever caught on camera. These chilling clips will make you question everything about the great outdoors and leave you wondering if you'll ever dare to step into the woods alone again. From unexplained noises to terrifying encounters, these videos will haunt your dreams and make you think twice about who or what is lurking in the shadows. Jake Travis, the adventurous guy behind the Hoggett Project, was out on his latest camping trip in the rugged mountains of Washington State. His plan was simple but exciting. Dive into the wild, capture his experience, and explore strange happenings that seem to lurk in these dense woods.
Back out here in the mountains, and I'm thinking of going up to the top there, having a look. If that doesn't work, back in here looks like it's flattening out. Made it to the top.
Little did he know, this time he'd find something far scarier than just a quiet night under the stars. The day started like any other. He hiked up the trail toward a spot near a creek running through the woods. The sound of rushing water, the fresh smell of pine trees, and the peace of being alone in nature surrounded him as he looked for the best place to camp, away from other people. He found a small, flat area that seemed perfect. The ground was soft, probably from animals passing through, and the trees were in good spots to hang his tarp. But as he started setting up camp, something felt off. The tarp, which should have been easy, was giving him trouble. The trees weren't in the best spots, and he realized the tarp wasn't square, making it a little harder to set up. But Jake pushed through and got it up, creating a slanted shelter against the hill. By the time he finished, the sky was starting to darken. As the campfire flickered and the air grew colder, Jake began to feel uneasy. Earlier, he had heard a strange noise, something loud and heavy. Could it have been the wind? An animal? Maybe just a rotting log settling? He wasn't sure. But then, as if the woods were playing tricks on him, another noise came from the forest, this time closer, the crunch of footsteps on dry leaves and twigs. Jake froze.
And that's when I stand up and I just shine the forest. Of course the noise has stopped, and I'm guessing whoever it was, it found a good spot to lay low. I didn't see any eyes glowing back, didn't see any movement, other than I did see a bat. But definitely that is not what made the loud noises. And all this, I probably shined the light on the forest for a good 3 to 4 solid minutes.
His heart started to race. He slowly stood up, scanning the dark woods. The light from his flashlight cut through the trees, showing only shadows and a bat flying by. But the footsteps had stopped. Whoever, or whatever, had been out there was now gone. A chill ran down his spine. He thought about what to do. Should he stay and keep the fire going, or pack up and leave?
And I was like, I'm not scared right now, but I'm also thinking maybe I'm too close to the stream. That's going to attract animals coming to get a drink.
The creek was too close, and the smell of water might attract animals. But still, the strange noises kept nagging at him. He decided it was time to go. As he packed up, he heard another sound. A heavy crunch, closer to the creek this time. Jake quickly finished packing, his senses on high alert.
I think I see something small. Maybe it's like a raccoon or something right there by the water. And as I hit the high beam, this is when I see it. I see something standing there on the side of the road, pretending to be a statue.
As he walked to his car, he glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see something following him. And that's when he saw it. At first, he thought it was just an animal, a raccoon maybe, near the water.
Whatever this was, decided it was just gonna freeze, and then maybe I wouldn't think it was anything. But as I'm looking in that direction, I'm not even kidding, it looks like somebody dressed up in camo. And they've got their back slightly angled away, I'd say like at a 45 degree. They're standing there about 6 feet tall, looking like a human that I just caught that was probably sneaking up on me. That's all I can think.
But when he turned on his headlights, what he saw made him feel cold all over. A figure, standing still. It looked like a person, but something wasn't right. It was positioned oddly, like it was trying to hide in the shadows. The figure was dressed head to toe in camouflage, and the way it stood seemed unnatural. There was no movement, just stillness. Jake's instincts screamed that this wasn't a regular hiker. It was like someone had been following him, trying to stay hidden.
That is what happened, and eventually after the 20 seconds, he didn't move, he just kept standing there. So I just pretended like, oh, maybe I didn't see you then. On my way out, periodically I'd turn back, check. Nope, didn't see him, he's gone. And that's that. Very, very strange, and I don't know what the plan was for me.
For what felt like forever, Jake kept the headlights on the figure. His mind raced. Should he call out? What if this person meant harm? But after what felt like 20 seconds, the figure still hadn't moved. In that moment, the fear that had been creeping up on him took over. If he confronted it, what would happen next? Would the stranger attack? Jake did the only thing he could think of. He pretended not to see it. He acted like everything was normal and, with his heart pounding, he turned away. But as he drove off, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time he glanced in the rearview mirror, the figure was gone. He didn't see it again, but the unease stuck with him long after. The mountains had always been his peaceful escape, but after that night, the woods didn't feel so welcoming anymore. Who had been out there with him, and what did they want? Was it just a lost hiker, or was something darker going on? Jay couldn't stop thinking that the woods were hiding more than he was ready to find. The fear of the unknown stayed with him, and as he drove away from the mountains, he wondered, would it be safe to go back? Or had he just stumbled onto something far scarier than he could have imagined? What do you think? Was it just a person in camouflage? Or is there something more mysterious lurking in the woods? The explorer from YouTube channel Grizzly Gaz makes his way through a dark forest, commenting on how spooky the place looks. His flashlight flickers on and off, adding to the eerie feeling. He jokingly mentions that it's a school night, but it's not unusual for him to be out exploring.
I'm in this woodland, and I've heard that pagans come in here to do their rituals. Is that what you want to call it? So I'm looking for, it's a large down tree, and it's around this area somewhere. So I'll have to figure out where that is quickly because we're losing light.
As he walks deeper into the woods, he talks about rumors of pagans coming to the area for ceremonies, which makes the adventure feel more mysterious. The explorer is looking for a large fallen tree that's said to be connected to pagan rituals. He finds it, but even before seeing any signs of rituals, the place already feels strange. Despite this, he decides to set up camp near the tree. The camera shows the woods getting darker, and his gear only gives off a little light, making the area feel even spookier. Once his tent is ready, the explorer talks about having dinner, bacon mash, and jokes about his dog, Fendi, causing some trouble. He also mentions how cold it's getting, noting the temperature dropping as night falls.
Have you ever lost a pair of trousers? I lost my sausage jack trousers, my brown ones, and I've no idea where I put them. I haven't been anywhere to take them and take them off because I only wear them when I go camping, so I've no idea where I put them.
While making his food, he tells a funny story about losing a pair of his camping pants, which adds a bit of humor to the creepy atmosphere. He jokes about needing to buy new pants, keeping the mood light. After dinner, the explorer says that once it gets fully dark, he plans to go for a walk. He talks about how creepy the woods are at night, with only his flashlight lighting the way. As he walks further with Fendi, the woods get even more unsettling. He mentions how hard it is to walk through the woods in the dark, with no clear paths, just animal trails. He hears strange noises, like acorns and leaves falling, which are much louder in the quiet night, making it hard to tell if they're just normal sounds or something spooky. As the night goes on, the explorer starts to feel more uneasy.
There's a slight breeze in the air, so there's lots of things just dropping from trees because it's autumn now, so there's conkers and all sorts of stuff dropping out over here in front of me.
He hears branches cracking, and, with the wind picking up, the sounds from the trees add to the creepy vibe. He thinks about his previous camping experiences, mentioning that while it was fun, he doesn't like doing extra tasks like chopping wood when he's stuck in a small space with bugs. He keeps walking around and notices the feeling of unease growing. There's a sense that something is off as he hears more noises. Some of the sounds seem too close, and he talks about the danger of falling branches, which can be deadly. The explorer hears more noises, including something that sounds like footsteps or someone walking nearby. His nervousness increases when he realizes that his flashlight is having problems, making everything feel even creepier. He tries to calm Fendi down as the dog is getting more worked up. The explorer's worry grows as his light flickers off and on.
GoPro's nearly dead and all. Let me try to find a torch.
This makes everything feel even more tense. At one point, he mentions that the battery in his GoPro is running low, which adds to his sense of vulnerability.
I think best thing to do now is to pack up and get out of here. I don't like being in this tent now, not one bit. I'm going to leave you running to make sure.
He starts to feel trapped and more anxious, saying he doesn't want to be in the tent anymore. By now, the tension is high. The explorer hears more strange noises and can't tell if it's just the wind or something else. His flashlight keeps malfunctioning, which makes him even more scared. He talks about how uneasy he feels because of the flickering light, the strange noises, and Fendi acting anxious. He even considers packing up and leaving the woods, feeling disoriented and scared by the darkness. The explorer talks about how things feel even more wrong now, and that he might need to leave the area. His growing panic and the strange sounds are getting stronger. The situation reaches its peak when the explorer hears loud shouting and running noises, as if a large group of people is coming toward his camp. This makes him feel even more exposed and forces him to grab his things quickly. He doesn't want to stay there with those noises getting closer. He hurriedly gathers his gear, leaving behind his tent and some other equipment as he rushes to get out.
Wow, what a crazy night that was, eh? When I was packing up, I managed to get my my sleeping bag and everything and get that in my backpack. Then I heard loads and loads of screaming, like shouting from men, and it sounded like there were about 20 or 30 of them. And then they all started running, and it sounded like they were coming towards tent, so I just grabbed my bag and off skis, because my keys were in my bag.
His heart races as he realizes the sounds might be close by. In a panic, the explorer leaves the area with Fendi, leaving some camping gear behind. He says that while he's okay with being scared, the thought of losing his equipment makes him more upset. He also notices tears in his tent's cover, which makes him think someone, or something, was messing with his camp. The explorer seems sure that some outside force was trying to make him leave, which makes the mystery of what's going on in the woods even deeper. As the video ends, the explorer is seen running away, still feeling the fear hanging over him. The noise and disturbances in the woods, along with the damaged gear, leave him wondering what really happened that night. The video finishes with a feeling of unease as he reflects on what happened, but without clear answers. Two girls, you might know them from their YouTube channel Camper Vibe, wanting to escape the busy noise of the holiday season, decided to head into the quiet woods of Pluckley, England, a place known not only for its beauty but also for its spooky reputation. Looking for peace and quiet, they set up their tent and got ready for a night under the stars. But this wasn't just any forest. It was one of the most haunted places in the UK. Pluckley, a small village nearby, has the title of Britain's most haunted village. With 14 known ghosts and a strange history of mysterious deaths and disappearances, it's even in the Guinness World Records. If they had looked it up before arriving, they would have known how strange this place was. But they decided to go ahead with their adventure, wanting to ignore the creepy feeling around them. Instead of turning back to go home, the ghosts chose a road on their own. The woods were known for ghost stories, like the ghost of a highwayman who was killed and beheaded in the 18th century. But there were also more recent and disturbing stories about murders and disappearances, which made the place feel even more unsettling. As night fell, the girls, with a ukulele, a campfire, and a simple dinner of meatballs and pasta, tried to relax. But the forest had other plans. The peaceful sounds of the forest quickly changed to odd noises.
Honestly, I've never known a woods with so many strange noises. It's not just your normal birds and stuff and planes. There's a lot of planes. There's like this weird, I don't really know how to describe it, but burn out in a bit, sit here and enjoy a fire for a little while and then head to bed. The hammock's really comfy, thank God, so I should sleep well, I would think. Where's my big bean? What was that noise?
Footsteps, movement near their tent. And strange sounds that couldn't be explained made them nervous. It wasn't just animals, something else, something human, seemed to be lurking in the dark.
What the f*** was that? I don't want to turn the light on because I'm pretty convinced there's been a person or persons. What the fuck? I've never wanted the morning to come as much as I do right now.
The fear grew, making it hard to ignore the fact that they might not be alone. They tried to cheer themselves up with jokes and enjoyed their simple meal, but the atmosphere felt tense. As the night went on, it only got worse. What started as weird noises turned into clear footsteps around their camp, walking back and forth all night. The girls were too scared to turn on their flashlights or check, so they stayed in fear and uncertainty. Was it a lost hiker, or something far worse? As each hour passed, they felt more and more anxious, and by morning, neither of them had slept. The frightening feeling from the night stayed with them, but when morning came, they pushed themselves to continue. They grabbed their cameras, packed up their stuff, and headed out to explore. Along the way, they made an odd discovery, an old Bedford truck sitting all alone in the middle of the woods. They had no idea how it got there, but it seemed like the kind of place someone might hide from the strange happenings around them. They also learned that this very forest, called Screaming Wood, was one of the most famous for paranormal activity. Stories said that screams could be heard in the woods at night, scaring anyone who went too far in. They also heard stories about a monk, always mourning the death of his lover, still wandering the woods. Was it these kinds of ghosts that made the air feel so creepy? That night, their dinner was a bit fancier: steak, chips, mushrooms, and sweet corn. They tried to ignore the unsettling noises, focusing on their meal and each other. But the quiet that often fell over the woods was enough to make anyone feel uneasy. Even as they settled in for another night, knowing the haunted history of the place, they still felt scared. The wind picked up and the trees creaked. The air was still, and the deer they had heard earlier now seemed eerily quiet. Then the strange noises came again. Footsteps, slow and steady, walking around their camp. But this time, they were too scared to look. Was it something supernatural, or just their nerves getting the best of them in such an eerie place? In the end, the night passed without anything else scary happening, but the strange sounds and ghost stories stayed in their minds long after the fire went out. It was definitely the most haunted camping trip they'd ever had, and even though they didn't believe in ghosts, they couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was out there watching them in the cold, quiet woods. This wasn't just a camping trip. It was an adventure into the unknown, a place where history, ghost stories, and spooky experiences all came together for a memorable, though scary night. The girls may have walked away with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear: they'd never forget their night in Pluckley's haunted woods. Tom, a 26-year-old app developer from Essex, recently started a new channel, Thomas Locke, for IRL vlogs, where he shares his outdoor adventures and personal life with his viewers.
I hope that's how it ends up working out. I've just come back from a really heavy leg day at the gym. I'm still like sweating like mad. It took half an hour longer than I expected it to, so I am leaving for this wild camp.
In this video, he's going on a solo wild camping trip even though he's running behind. After a tough leg day at the gym, Tom is already feeling tired and sweaty, but he's determined to make it work. He's late to leave and the sun will set in about 40 minutes. He still needs to drive for 20 minutes and walk another 20 to reach his camping spot. He's cutting it close, but that won't stop him. While driving, the sunset light reflecting off the car makes everything feel magical, and he gets more excited about the trip. He jokes that he'll be at a feast for the mosquitoes tonight since he's covered in sweat. But it doesn't stop him. Tom wasn't planning to camp at this spot originally, but since he's running out of time, he picks a closer location. When he parks, he sees his dog Airy loving the open field, running around happily. This lifts Tom's spirits, as he's still feeling the pressure of being late. The path to the camp is overgrown, and Tom isn't quite ready for it. There are nettles and thorns scratching his legs, and he realizes he should have worn long pants. After struggling through the thick brush, he stops to change into the right gear. Once he's ready, the trail becomes more manageable and he feels a bit better. It's quiet though, and as he walks, he hears the faint sound of a tractor nearby. He's happy to be away from busy paths, but there's still something strange about the silence. As Tom moves deeper into the woods, something feels off. He can't shake the feeling that he's trespassing, not legally, but in a spiritual sense.
His dog's tail, he keeps looking over there. His tail. It's just completely dropped. He keeps looking in that direction.
The woods are so quiet, and it feels like something's wrong. Airy's behavior makes him even more uneasy. The dog starts acting strange, staring at one spot in the woods, tail down and eyes darting around. Tom feels more uncomfortable. It's not just the quiet, it's like everything around him is watching. He wonders if he's just imagining things, but something doesn't feel right. Tom's gut instinct tells him to cook dinner, put on some bug spray, and just get through the night. But the more he thinks about it, the more uneasy he becomes. The woods just don't feel right.
Just birds, mate, just birds. Yep.
He wonders if the weird feeling is just in his head, or if Airy is sensing something he can't see. Tom starts to feel like maybe camping here isn't a good idea after all. Then, things get worse. He's about to make food when Airy keeps staring into the woods, which is starting to freak Tom out. Airy never reacts like this, and it makes Tom question if he should even stay. He begins to feel like he's doing something wrong by being there, like something doesn't want him around. The woods are silent, and the usual sounds of crickets and birds are gone. making everything feel even creepier. Tom even starts thinking about comments he's gotten online, with one person suggesting that maybe he's too nervous for camping and should quit.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I was going to talk about how this one guy was like, oh, you should quit camping if you're overly nervous, and I was going to be like, no, I'm not overly nervous. Yeah, here I am camping in a forest on my own. I just had doubts because 2 people approached me in the middle of my last video.
Tom is torn between finishing his trip and listening to the feeling in his gut that something's wrong. He decides to leave. It's not an easy choice, but he's trusting his instincts. He's not the type to quit, but this time something feels off. He packs up his stuff, deciding it's better to be safe. Harry seems relieved as they head back. As they leave, Tom feels a bit better, but he's still unsure if he made the right decision. Would everything have been fine if he stayed? Maybe. But just as he's thinking about it, something strange happens. Out of nowhere, he hears a loud noise from the woods that makes the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. It doesn't sound like any animal or person he knows. His heart races and his voice drops, filled with fear.
You won't have heard that because I've got my mic on me.
Harry too is acting strange, which makes Tom even more anxious. Now Tom is completely sure that leaving was the right call. The strange noise and the weird vibe in the woods confirm that it wasn't a place he should have stayed. As Tom walks away, he reflects on how maybe his mind was playing tricks on him, but he's okay with that. He doesn't regret leaving. In the last moments of the video, Tom's voice becomes quieter and more serious. He thinks about how leaving doesn't feel like failure, it feels like survival. As he walks away, the video shows him glancing back at the woods one last time. Tom finishes the video with the feeling that something supernatural might have been going on. The strange noise only confirmed what he already suspected, that the place was off. While he doesn't have an explanation for what happened, he's fine with that. He made the right choice to leave, and he feels at peace with his decision. Urban explorers have a talent for finding forgotten places, and one such group, based in the Greater Toronto Area, GTA, set out to explore a creepy location, the abandoned Gundry Sanitarium. Built in 1880 by architect Charles Baker, the sanitarium was originally a private facility for women who needed rest and care away from home. But its later history was much darker. In the 1990s, the building was turned into a psychiatric center for children. However, after many reports of mistreatment, it was shut down in the early 2000s. The property, taken over by the city, has been abandoned and falling apart ever since.
It operated as such until its closure in 1997, where it exchanged ownership with the local church and was converted into a psychiatric facility for children. This new life was short-lived, however, after several reports of abuse and mistreatment of patients led to an official investigation of the facility following its closure in early 2000.
On this particular trip, the group entered the old decaying building, some going in together, others exploring alone. At first, everything seemed quiet, just an old, forgotten place falling apart. The explorers walked through the rooms, checking out the leftovers of what was once a working building.
Oh, that's a pretty sweet fireplace.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
They found old fireplaces, broken windows, and a strange level of damage. The walls had stories to tell. Peeling paint, abandoned furniture, and signs of a past life scattered across the rooms. But as the group explored deeper, the unsettling feeling in the sanitarium started to grow.
No. The door just opened by itself. No.
Which one?
That door just opened by itself. That door just opened by itself.
One of the explorers, Dan, found something strange. A door in a particular room opened by itself. The strange sounds and moving objects were things they had heard about, but now they were seeing them for themselves. Was it the wind, or was something or someone moving these things? As they went on, a sense of worry grew. The building had a history of people being treated badly, and as they explored further, the group started to feel that the building's past was still there, almost as if the place was filled with memories of what had happened.
You said you found another dead cat?
Yeah.
They put a flower with it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Damn, that's
Is
messed
this
up.
somebody killing cats and just...
I don't think so.
The explorers found something disturbing. A dead cat, still smelling bad, trapped inside the building. Dan thought the poor animal might have wandered in and couldn't find a way out, but the smell stuck around, mixing with the rotting air, showing that this place had been empty for a long time, but still not totally abandoned. They also found odd marks on the walls, children's drawings, religious papers, and strange messages. Even though they didn't believe in ghosts at first, the group couldn't help but notice some weird things happening.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a timer. What the? Did you wind up this timer?
Things were moved around, and a strange ticking noise from an old jacuzzi timer made the place feel even more creepy. The most unsettling thing they found? Dolls. When they went back to the room with the dolls, they realized the dolls had been moved. They were in different spots than where they had left them. Was it the wind? Or was something else going on? As the group kept exploring, they found another room where the door opened on its own again. It was like something, or someone, was behind it, pulling the door open. The cold air, strange noises, and the feeling of being watched made them uneasy. They pushed on, trying to figure out what was happening. In one of the last moments, they went into the basement and found more strange signs.
Look at the old pipework.
The old pipes and equipment from when the building had been a psychiatric center told a sad story of when it had housed vulnerable children. When they reached the top floor, a final mystery was waiting for them. The dolls had been moved again, in a room where the atmosphere felt heavy, like they weren't alone. Was the Gundry Sanitarium haunted? Was something living in the walls making those strange sounds? Or was it just their minds playing tricks in such a run-down, creepy place? The explorers didn't have answers, but they did have footage, proof of their experience. Strange moments caught on camera that they couldn't explain. In the end, the haunted sanitarium stayed as it was, forgotten, falling apart, and full of mystery. What happened to the children who were there? What forces still lurk in the shadows? Maybe some questions are better left unanswered. But one thing's for sure. The Gundry Sanitarium will keep haunting the minds of those brave enough to explore its abandoned halls. Nathan had been a self-proclaimed armchair survivalist for many years, but 2022 was the year he decided to take his skills outdoors and try them out in the wilds of Scotland. His first winter camp of the year was bound to be interesting. Armed with a knife, a sleeping bag, and the usual gear, he was ready to face whatever the wilderness threw at him.
Hi guys, welcome back to Under the Weather. First winter camp of 2022. Gonna have a wee camp overnight. Get a fire going, cook up some chicken wings, I hope. And gonna cook with alcohol for the first time, so stay around and see how that goes.
However, this was no ordinary camping trip. No, this time the wild would not make things easy. Documenting his journey on his channel, Under the Weather, Nathan captured every challenge and triumph, bringing viewers along for the adventure. As soon as Nathan arrived, he realized it was wetter than expected, which made starting the fire a bit harder. But, as any experienced camper knows, when things get tough, you just have to keep going. After a little time, Nathan finally got the fire going, though it took longer than he wanted. He had a plan for the evening. Chicken wings cooked over an open flame, using the cowgirl method for the first time. What could go wrong? Well, we'd soon find out.
Right, done at last. That was amateur hour. I forgot the skewers, so you may have seen me trying with a couple of wee bendy sticks, but anyway, here we are. We have fried burnt chicken wings, mashed potato, which is actually not too bad, and some cheese coleslaw for a summer picnic. Let's try one of these wings.
Next, it was time to try out his new sleeping bag. Nathan had brought along a fine nature hike sleeping bag designed for winter camping. He unwrapped it and hoped it would keep him warm as promised. When he opened it, he joked that it would magically expand like the TARDIS and keep him cozy for the night.
Okay, I think that's me ready to settle in. Trying out the new bag, which is pretty cozy. I think I'm actually going to be too hot. That's about it. So, let's see. God, I'm roasting already. Oh, feels good. Oh, that feels good. A bit too hot, but right. So I think I'm going to go to sleep. And unless something crazy happens, I will see you in the morning. Good night.
He left it to puff up, trusting the goose down to do its job. After a little while, the bag seemed ready and looked promising. Nathan was excited about it, but would it be enough to keep him warm in the cold of the night? Now, with the fire and sleeping bag under control,
Got milk with me today. Oh, I don't know how much this might take. But I had to buy a new cup from Primark. Not Primark, from Lidl. Not sure how much liquid it can take. Turn. Turn, you bugger. Right. May drink it of that.
it was time for the coffee. Nathan pulled out a new cup from Lidl, not from Primark, he made sure to point out, and got ready to brew. There was just one small problem. He couldn't figure out how to close the lid properly. After a few tries, he finally got his coffee ready, though some milk had spilled and it was a little frustrating. It was a small issue, but it added to the challenges of the night. Then came the moment Nathan had been waiting for: cooking the chicken wings. The fire was going, the chicken was seasoned, but there was one problem. Nathan forgot the skewers. No problem though, improvising was key in the wild, so he grabbed a couple of bendy sticks, and that would have to do. The chicken wings were placed over the flames, and after a little work, Nathan ended up with what could only be called fried burnt chicken wings. It wasn't a gourmet meal, but it was edible, and surprisingly, it tasted good once he added a lot of Tabasco sauce. A side of mashed potatoes and coleslaw completed the meal, which wasn't too bad, considering the situation. And as funny as it may seem, basing the chicken with Tabasco sauce, that's heaven. And the only food descriptive in the word donut. By this point, night was falling, and it was clear that things wouldn't be getting any easier. The outside world was wet and muddy, and though it wasn't raining, everything was damp. Nathan decided it was time to retreat to his tent. With the sound of a nearby waterfall as the only background noise, he settled in, book in hand, and started to relax, until his mind began to play tricks on him. The wind picked up, and it was then that he heard something strange. At first, it was a distant sound.
I've got a knife in here. I've got a knife. I've got a knife. Right.
Something like a laugh. Was there someone else out there with him? Impossible. Nathan was sure he was alone, isolated on a tiny island with rivers on both sides. No one could possibly be nearby. But the laughter kept going, followed by the sound of footsteps near the water.
Hello? 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 Jesus Christ. Fuck that.
Nathan's heart began to race. Was it an animal? Was there someone out there? He didn't know. In his nervous state, he joked that if anything happened to him, this would be his last will and testament, but he was really feeling unsettled. After hearing what sounded like someone moving near the water, Nathan quickly grabbed his knife and got ready to investigate. His heart was pounding as he heard more sounds. Was someone there? Or was it just his mind playing tricks on him? He didn't want to find out, so he quickly ran back into the tent, trying to convince himself it was just the wind or something natural. He eventually managed to fall asleep, but not without a lingering sense of worry. When morning came, bringing sunlight and some relief, Nathan decided to check outside. Thankfully, the strange noises hadn't been caused by any dangerous visitors, though his fire had long since gone out because of the wet conditions. Everything looked the same, wet, cold, and a little less magical than he had hoped. But Nathan was ready with some modern fire-starting methods, and soon he had a small fire going again. He thought briefly about the night, the strange noises, the mistakes, and the small wins. He hadn't expected it to be easy, but this was all part of the adventure. There were still lessons to be learned, and the day was just beginning. Packing up his gear and taking one last look at the wilderness around him, Nathan couldn't help but feel proud. The wilderness had thrown everything it could at him: wet weather, tough fires, an eerie night, and even a mistake with the chicken wings. But he had made it, and he'd learned something new along the way. Before leaving, he gave a quick shout-out to viewers. Like and subscribe if you can, I really appreciate it. And with that, Nathan signed off, ready to head back to civilization, knowing he'd be back again for more wild adventures in the future. And as always, the team at Under the Weather promised to return, eager for the next challenge. The video from the YouTube channel Grizzly Gaz begins with the host and their dog Fendi setting off to explore an old ruined church that still has its tall tower, along with a forgotten graveyard that is said to be haunted. The host jokes about how spooky the place is and expresses excitement about the adventure ahead. As they get closer to the church remains, the host explains that it used to be the Church of England, but it was torn down in 2007 after a storm. Even though it's been destroyed, the tower and some lower parts of the church are still standing.
I'm here in Stony Royd Cemetery to try and find an old church that's been demolished, but there's still a spire left, and also a forgotten graveyard that's apparently haunted. So come on, let's go find it.
The host shares their interest in Gothic buildings, pointing out the old stone walls and fancy details, including the tile floor that is still there inside the church. They wonder about the church's design and ask viewers to share their thoughts, especially about the weep holes on the outside. They mention that the church might have been used by people who didn't follow the main church's teachings, and that the site is now closed to the public. The host then heads to the forgotten graveyard, showing graves and tombs that have been covered by leaves and time.
So this is the forgotten graveyard up here. And these are all the forgotten graves.
They mention that the cemetery has stones remembering those buried there. The host talks about the eerie feeling in the air, mentioning church bells and a notice that the cemetery is closing. As they explore, the host shares some history of the place. They explain that Christopher Rawson's mansion was built there in 1764, and in 1860, the land was bought by the Halifax Corporation. They tore down the mansion and built a fever hospital that had 2 churches and 2 graveyards, one for the Church of England and one for people who didn't belong to it. The host describes how thousands of bodies were moved from 3 different churches to Stony Royd Cemetery, where the remains of over 3,000 people were relocated. They reflect on how these people were moved and forgotten, adding to the spooky vibe of the cemetery. The host mentions the legend of a lady in white who is said to haunt the woods, building even more suspense.
There's a lady in white here.
As it starts getting dark, the host sets up a tent near the vault and plans to stay overnight.
There it is. There's the setup. Cedar Summit comfort light pad, the Nature Hike CW 400 sleeping pad, that's Fendi's Cedar Summit pad, Trekology pillow.
They joke about their camping gear, like the sleeping pad and pillow, and remind themselves to keep the tent zipped to keep bugs out. While setting up, the host points out that Fendi is acting strangely, which adds to the creepy atmosphere. Setting up the tent gives a break from the tension, with a nice view of Halifax in the background. Once the camp is ready, the host uses an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, device to try and communicate with any spirits around. The device responds with the word lower, followed by Albert.
If someone's here, will you come and say something into this device?
Lower.
Lower?
The host is curious and asks if Albert is there. Fendi, who has been acting odd, runs under a structure, which makes everything feel even spookier. The host jokes about it, but strange things are starting to happen. As night falls, the host walks deeper into the graveyard with Fendi, using a GoPro to record. They're unsure about the footage in the dark, but they're determined to keep exploring. They find a dark and spooky part of the site, where they hear strange noises and see shadows that might be from ghosts. The host switches to their phone camera, which works better in low light, and keeps going. The camera catches an unsettling image of something that looks like a person inside the church ruins. The mood gets more tense with creepy sounds and moments of fear.
Can maybe have a look inside here. Can you see out?
At one point, the host finds a disturbing image of a cat in a pet cemetery and jokes about the movie Pet Sematary. This makes everything feel even creepier, and the host mentions that they might need to leave soon before things get even weirder. They keep exploring, focusing on the spooky church tower and the haunting stained glass in the moonlight. The mystery deepens as the host comments on the beauty of the place, even though it feels eerie. As the night goes on, the host has a strange moment when they see something they describe as a strange little creature. It's hard to tell if it's an animal or something else, but the host is a little shaken. Fendi seems to sense something too, but the host reassures the viewers, saying that they have their dog for protection. They're relieved when the exploration for the night ends, but the feeling of tension still lingers, leaving the door open for more spooky events. The video switches to the next morning, with the host waking up around 6:30 a.m. as the sun starts to rise. They think back on the experience, noting that nothing especially paranormal happened during the night, though the atmosphere was still unsettling. They joke about their camping gear, including a comfy sleeping bag, and share a funny moment with Fendi. The host says that nothing supernatural happened, but they still feel the thrill of the eerie adventure. Larry's channel, Work Less, Enjoy Life More, was all about getting away from the stress of always working and living with less pressure. He used to run his own businesses, working long hours and feeling like his days off didn't really exist. He realized his life was taken over by responsibilities, big properties to take care of, bills piling up, and decided to sell everything. Now he works less than part-time, just enough to pay his bills, and spends his time in places like this, places most people only visit on weekends, if that.
I used to have my own businesses, I worked a lot, felt like even on my days off, they weren't days off. I decided to sell everything, kind of let the businesses go, and now I work what I would consider less than part-time, and it pays my bills.
Larry thought he was very lucky to have this life. One evening, Larry was camping in a beautiful, quiet spot, far away from the busy world. The temperature was finally cooling down to 78 DGF, and he had a fan going to help move the air, since his air conditioner had broken the week before. He thought he had about an hour or two before it got fully dark, so he decided to relax and maybe watch some TV while waiting for the heat to drop. It was supposed to be a peaceful, easy evening, just the kind of thing he had been working for. But then things took a strange turn. While he was getting comfortable, the normal sounds of nature around him started to change. The calm noise of the wilderness was broken by something unusual. A sound outside. At first, it was quiet, but clear, a distant sound of footsteps walking outside his camp. Larry stopped. There was no doubt now. The footsteps were clear, heavy, and steady. Someone, or something, was out there. Larry's heart began to race. He was alone, or at least he thought he was. He hadn't seen anyone for miles. The sound stopped, but the feeling of worry stayed. He tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just a deer or some other animal walking by. But then, a few minutes later, he noticed something even more strange. His chair, his folding camping chair, had been moved.
Okay, this chair was over here by the table last night when I went to bed, or the last time I went outside.
Larry was sure it had been by the table when he went to bed the night before, but now it wasn't in the same place. It had been moved, placed somewhere else. His eyes moved to it. That didn't feel right. Who would have moved it? Larry's mind began to race, trying to figure out what was happening. Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe the ground shifted, but the thought of someone, or something, being out here with him in the middle of nowhere made him uneasy. He took a deep breath and decided to go outside. He was still hoping it was just a strange accident, that there was an easy explanation. But when he stepped outside, he saw something unexpected. A tent, just down the road from where he was camping. "I'm out in the middle of nowhere," Larry said quietly to himself. "Why is there a tent right down the road from where I'm camping?" He looked around. He had been in this spot for a while and hadn't seen anyone or anything for miles. So, where did this tent come from? Larry's feeling of worry grew. He decided to walk toward the road, his senses on high alert. As he got closer, something even stranger caught his eye. A truck, a dark-colored Ford parked on the side of the road. No one was around, it was just sitting there, out of place in such a quiet spot. "I haven't seen anybody. I haven't seen another person for miles," Larry thought to himself. The whole thing didn't make sense. A tent, a truck, but no people. Something didn't feel right. Then, Larry's worry grew even more. He remembered something. Earlier, he had seen a man, a figure sitting in the truck, just parked on the side of the road. A guy in a Ford, sitting there, not moving. The whole thing felt wrong. It was creepy, especially in such a lonely area where he had expected complete quiet. Larry's mind raced. Why was there a truck out here, and who was the person in it?
I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Why is there a tent? Like right down the road from where I was camping.
Why hadn't he seen anyone earlier in the day, and now there were signs of life? Strange, unexplainable signs? At that moment, Larry's gut told him something was wrong. Something wasn't right in this peaceful, quiet place. The calm of the night had been broken, replaced by an uneasy feeling. He wasn't just camping anymore, he was starting to feel like someone was watching him. He spoke to the camera, trying to make light of the situation, but his voice had a nervous edge to it. "Don't forget to share this with a friend if you want to freak them out," he said half-jokingly, but the fear in his voice was clear. Something was wrong. Larry felt it deep down. He wasn't alone out here. But who, or what, was out there with him? Was it just a strange accident, or had he found something much darker than he had imagined? As he stood there, questioning everything, Larry couldn't shake the feeling that he was being pulled into a mystery he wasn't ready for. He had come out here for peace and quiet, but now the woods felt strange, even dangerous. The calm night that had seemed so peaceful just hours ago now felt like the quiet before a storm. What do you think? Was it just a strange coincidence, or was there something more horrible at work in that quiet part of the wilderness? And who was the man in the truck? Larry might never know, but for now, the mystery remains. Steve Wallace starts the video by talking about his plan to visit the place where there was a famous Bigfoot Sasquatch sighting on Mica Mountain. Even though he doesn't really believe in Bigfoot, he's doing this to follow the requests from his viewers. He drives up the logging road in his old 1997 Toyota Corolla, trying to get as close as possible to the spot where someone named William Rowe saw something strange back in 1955. Steve says he's more worried about running into bears, especially black bears, because the area is known for wildlife, mostly bears. He takes steps to stay safe, like bringing bear spray and Moose's whistle. When he gets to their camping spot, Steve comments on how nice the place is, but there are lots of mosquitoes.
Now this is a beautiful spot. The mosquitoes are horrendous. That's about the worst that I've seen them on this trip so far. So first things first is I'll get this thermosol going, and that should kill the ones in this vicinity. Then I can set up our little rain tent.
To keep the bugs away, he sets up a thermocell, which he says should help clear them out. He then sets up a small rain shelter to keep them dry since the weather forecast says it might rain. He also mentions that there's proof of bears in the area, some blueberries have been eaten by animals, but he plans to keep food away from their tent so they don't attract any bears. His main worry is not surprising the animals and making sure they don't come near their camp. While setting up camp, Steve gets annoyed with the new Coleman 8-person tent he bought. Unlike his usual pop-up tent, this one takes more time and effort to set up, and it takes almost an hour to get it ready. Even though he's frustrated, he stays in a good mood and jokes about how much he misses his old, easy-to-set-up gear. Steve talks about how different ground types can make setting up tents hard, as sometimes the ground is too soft or hard, making the tent unstable. Steve also shares the story of the Bigfoot sighting in the area, especially the 1955 report by William Rowe, who said he saw something like Sasquatch near the top of Mica Mountain. Even though Steve still doesn't believe in Bigfoot, he knows some people do. He humorously says that he's more worried about a bear showing up than Bigfoot. As night falls, Steve starts a fire with wet wood, lighter fluid, and kerosene, joking that wet firewood is one of the hardest things to light. He also talks about how he's curious about the possibility of meeting something strange, even though he doesn't expect anything to happen. As rain starts to fall, he tries a tree knock.
That clear sky turned into rain pretty quick, actually. The can of chili is still turning into food over there by the fire. And no sign of anything out here so far. Really, I've been camping out here, kind of in this area for years now, on the order of.
Where people tap a tree with a stick to see if they can get a response from Bigfoot. He tries it a few times but doesn't hear anything. He's not sure if he's doing it at the wrong time or place, or if he just needs a better stick. Later, Steve admits that he's not really expecting anything but is still enjoying the camping trip. He heats up a can of chili by the fire, making Frito pie with corn chips, cheese, and chili. He says it's easy to make and something he should do more often. Steve thanks his viewers for their support, especially those who've sent beer donation gifts to help fund his trips. He talks about how his job as a furnace repairman has its ups and downs, and the donations help him keep making these videos. He also mentions that he forgot to bring his own drink, but will open one soon. As the night goes on, Steve becomes more thoughtful, mentioning the clear sky and how beautiful the Milky Way looks.
The stars tonight are ferocious. The Milky Way is actually overhead going full Monty right now, like horizon to horizon. It's just incredible. I'm going to try and snap some stills of that because I can't get it on film.
He wonders if animals act differently on nights without the moon, thinking they might stay quiet because it's so dark. Even though the sky is peaceful, the rain starts falling again, and he keeps working on his meal. He hasn't heard or seen anything strange, but he stays cautious, always looking around. Around 11 p.m., Steve decides to try tapping a tree again to see if he gets a response. Still, nothing happens. He laughs at himself, saying he probably needs a better stick and that Bigfoot hunting is just a game of chance. He decides to relax and enjoy his Frito pie, even as the rain keeps falling. At some point during the night, Steve hears noises outside the tent. He quickly grabs his air horn, bear spray, and knife, ready to defend himself if needed.
I mean, close. There you go, my bear spray. Got a few else here.
He's not sure if it's a bear, Bigfoot, or something else, but the sounds are close enough to make him nervous. After a little while, he stays calm and waits for the noise to stop. He checks outside but doesn't see anything, so he stays alert, unsure if it was just an animal or something more unusual. The night passes without anything bad happening, though Steve admits he didn't sleep well because he was worried about what might be outside. In the morning, he finds out that the strange noises were caused by some cows that had wandered too close to the camp. causing a stampede. Steve laughs and says the cows were probably just as confused as he was. There's no sign of Bigfoot or any other animals, but he reflects on how easy it is to mistake animals for something scarier. Steve takes a moment to sleep more, though he admits it wasn't the best night's rest. He talks about how many mosquitoes are still around, but overall the trip has been calmer than he expected. He ends by saying that even though he doesn't believe in Sasquatch, he stays open to the idea, though he's still more worried about bears. He finishes by reviewing the tent, saying it was a good purchase despite the setup issues, and that he'll bring it on future trips.